Namaskar and welcome to In Focus. 18 months of United Front rule ended with the collapse of the Gujarat government. But what did it achieve and what does the future hold? Today, in the second of two interviews, we assess the legacy of the United Front by talking to its first Prime Minister and Chairman of its steering committee, H.D. Devegowda. Mr. Devegowda, the United Front was India's first important experiment in coalition government. You were the first Prime Minister. I want to ask you a difficult question, but I know you can answer it.
No problem. No problem.
What would you say were the great achievements of your 10 months in office?
The number of achievements, if I want to list out, I think the time which you have indicated may not be sufficient. I can only highlight some of the points where the United Front government, with a coalition of 13 political parties, I can shortlist. I want to say this much. The inflation was controlled. It is below 3.6%. In last 10 years, this is the major achievement we have made. And the fiscal deficit is controlled, maintained within 4.5%. And the foreign exchange reserve, we have gone up to $30 billion. Not only that, the debt service in the last year, where it was 30%, now it is brought down to 25%. And the foreign debt, we have reduced by $2 billion by repayment. Now it is $90 billion.
So what you are saying is that...
And the other major achievement in agriculture sector, the previous year, it is 0.4%. Minus 0.4% was the growth in agriculture. And after I took over, some of the incentives which I have given to the farming community, which was the backbone of our country's economy, we were able to get 5.2% growth under agriculture.
Am I right in
These
saying...
are some of the major achievements, and I can
No, I
give a
understand.
number of
Am I right in detecting that you're particularly proud of the way you handle the economy?
See, these are certain achievements of the United government, even though the early part, the people of this country, or even the world, the investors were under the impression this may not be able to deliver goods because of 13 parties cannot come to the expectation. But we have proved beyond expectation by our action, by our decisions, by our achievement.
Okay, let me put you some of the comments that were made about your prime ministership. Some people said that you were inexperienced, that you had never been a minister in the center, leave aside prime minister before.
Those people who have made that comment in the early part of my government, I think they might have come to their realization. Now, after all these achievements of the United Front government in 10 months of my regime, it is not an achievement of an individual, it is an achievement, collective achievement. Okay, it should go to the credit of the entire United Front and 13 political parties.
So you disregard the comment that you lacked experience?
It is not for me to disregard or respect, to disregard, disrespect or respect to those people who have made that comment. It is for them to introspect themselves for such comments.
Okay, the other comment that was made was that you were a man of strong likes and strong dislikes, and that sometimes these came in the way of your judgment.
It is not the question of likes and dislikes. When a person wants to take some decisions, hard decisions on certain issues, the question of likes and dislikes should not come in the way. It is a question of merits and demerits. A prime minister who is sitting at that highest office of a big democracy, when he has to take a decision, he should not afraid of his chair. He must take hard decisions.
And you always took...
Some people think that it is likes and dislikes, I can't help. But I must not, it is not the question of Devegowda as Prime Minister. It is the Prime Minister of this country who has to take certain decisions, hard decisions wherever it is necessary, without caring to the consequences.
Are you saying that people who say you had likes and dislikes actually are objecting to hard decisions you took?
No, I don't think anybody has objected for some of the hard decisions. That hard decisions has paid the better dividend, better results in this country in 10 months.
Let me give you an example. of what they mean when they say that you were a man of strong dislikes. It's often said that your relationship with Congress would have been a better relationship had you liked Mr. Kesri as a person.
See, the question of liking Kesri or Narasimha Rao ji is, I don't think there is any yardstick for that, likes and dislikes. We used to give respect to both the leaders because they are representing an institution, the Congress. Narasimha Rao ji was the president for some time and then he took over the Sitaram Kesri ji. I met him 12 times and the same relationship I try to maintain. And one of the allegations against me was when the withdrawal was made, that allegation was that I am trying to divide Congress. I am trying to file certain false cases against the Congress leaders. Both are true, both are baseless, and I have never tried to divide the Congress.
Did you prefer having to deal with Narasimha Rao to Kesri? Did you get on better with Narasimha Rao compared to Kesri?
There is nothing. There is no need for me to differentiate between the two leaders. They are the presidents of the party. For some time he was the president, and sometime Mr. Kesri was the president. But the only difference which I have noticed was when I asked for an appointment to discuss about the so-called the money that has been received from foreign sources, about 3.5 crores, which was one of the issues that was to be broached with Sitaram Kesri on 30th March 1996, where he is given the time to meet him at 2:30. He went and gave a withdrawal letter to the President of India. This is the mark of difference which I can see from Narasimha Rao and Sitaram.
Is there a connection between the two? The fact that you were going to meet him about the 3 crores, is that why he withdrew support?
I do not know. The purpose of my sorting the appointment to meet Sitaram Kesri was only to discuss this issue, which I have already narrated the whole background on the floor of the House on 11th April 1997.
Do you think Mr. Kesri liked you?
It is for him to answer this question, whether he likes me or dislikes me. How can I answer this question?
The other person with whom there were comments that you had a difficult relationship was your Home Minister Indrajit Gupta.
There is no difference of opinion among any ministers, including the Home Minister. For your kind information, almost all the decisions in 10 months was unanimous, and every minister has cooperated, and every political parties within the United Front, the 13 political parties, extended their full cooperation, either in the steering committee or in the cabinet.
Can I interrupt?
There is no difference at all.
Can I interrupt and say that Mr. Indrajit Gupta often said that you imposed Padmanabhaiya upon him without consulting him?
I will answer. You yourself can get the reply for your question. Padmanabhaiya was continued for 7 months after I relinquished the office by the same Home Minister. There is no difference.
But the extension was given by you for 1 year when you were Prime Minister without consulting
Now the further extension was given, reappointment was given in the PMO's office itself.
So you're saying that clearly Mr. Indrajit Gupta was a party to it, even though he now claims he wasn't?
It is for you to judge. It is not for me. Even after I relinquished the office, he was continued as Home Secretary.
Okay.
And this same Home Secretary is now used in a different capacity by the same government.
Let's come to another aspect. People said that you were very close to Harkishan Singh Surjit. People said that he was your principal advisor.
Please do not try to make a hair-splitting argument. Mr. Harkishan Singh Surjit is a senior-most leader, more than 60 years of experience in public life, and his party was not participating in the government, though they are the partners in the United Front.
But did you rely on him for advice?
Please.
Did he advise you?
Yes. See, I should consult every the parties which is within the umbrella of the United Front. I have taken their advice even to frame the budget. All the opinion of the United Front partners, the political parties, have been taken and it has been consolidated. But the final picture was emerged, and some people talk that it's...
But was he your principal advisor? Was he your main political advisor?
No, it is not the question of main advisor. It is not the question of less advisor. The issue is how best we can try to coordinate.
Okay,
Is
talk
the
about,
main task before me.
let's talk about coordination. Do you think that the United Front, which is a coalition of 14 parties, was able to coordinate the parties effectively all the time?
Without any cooperation and coordination, how we could have been achieved all these achievements?
Okay,
Which was a milestone in Indian politics. A coalition government with 13 political parties, the achievements, if you are going to list it, and if you are going to make a fair analysis, you will be able to know the achievements.
But let me tell you why I asked this question. Many times, members of the government, members of the United Front used to stand up and criticize the government. The left always disagreed with the economic policies. The left staged dharnas against the economic policies. And as a result, people thought the United Front is quarreling.
Please. It is a fair comment. The 13 political parties have their own ideologies, their own political philosophy. But when we formed the United Front to take the responsibility of the reins of administration, we have formed the United Front with a common minimum program. Please allow me to speak. The difference voice, what you try to highlight, is nothing new in Indian politics. It is a democratic system which we have adopted in this country, even in a single party, where it happens to be a monolithic party which has run the country for more than 38 to 40 years. There are several contradictions.
Okay, I accept your point. It may not be new, but do you think it's desirable that members of the government, the CPI, the CPM, should be staging strikes against the government's economic policies? Because they did that.
I'm sorry to say, when the economic reforms were introduced by Narasimha Rao, was not some of the Congress leaders differed with its economic policies?
But just because Congress acts wrongly, should the United Front act wrongly?
Has it not been demonstrated by their dissatisfaction within the working committee and on the floor of the House?
Mr. Devegowda, is the Congress going to be an example for the United Front to follow?
It is not the question of the example. In our political system, there must be some freedom of expression. You cannot curtail that. Each man has got his own angle, his own thinking, his own approach. Even though it is even if it is a single political party, that doesn't mean it is being suppressed.
Okay, let me put to you something that a very senior United Front leader said just before he died. Biju Patnaik said that the United Front behaves like 13 quarreling lobsters. He said this with anguish, not with anger.
May I tell you one thing? Why do you pose that question to me, who is no more in this world? I never heard such type of reaction by a senior most leader like Biju Patnaik. I never heard such a sharp reaction. I don't know whether he's really said it or not. I do not want to drag his name after his demise.
Okay, let me then change and ask you a different thing. At the moment, you are chairman of the United Front Steering Committee. Do you think that the United Front image suffered by the way the government handled in July and August the Lalu Prasad Yadav issue?
See, it is not the question of government's image. It is the question of the situation that was prevailing on that day. Some people try to say about the Prime Minister. Some people say this is a weak government. For such a situation, the entire blame has to go on the Congress. The Congress President, if he has not destabilized this government, the country would have been gone much faster. Why Congress is supporting Lalu Prasad Yadav? What more evidence you want? What more the people of this country wants the evidence? A corrupt man who is facing such an inquiry by the CBI agency is supported by Congress. That itself is a clear indication to weaken the position of the Prime Minister. Don't unnecessarily try to forget the real, the person who is behind all this.
So you're saying that Congress is responsible,
totally responsible
for weakening Mr. Gujral's position?
Not only that, weakening the nation.
Okay, suppose you had been Prime Minister in July and August. Would you have taken a tougher stand
I do
against
not
Lalu?
want to answer for a hypothetical question. There is no need for me to answer.
That seems to suggest you would have been tougher.
No, that's a different matter. But I do not want to answer a hypothetical question where I am not there. The issue
Okay,
is...
don't answer a hypothetical question, answer a real one this time. The Ranbir Sena has just killed some 66 people in Bihar,
It is a national shame.
and 22 of them are
It is
children.
a national shame.
So should that government not be dismissed?
It is for the government to think over. Because I am sorry to say this, on this issue there is no question of sparing anybody. The Chief Minister of Bihar has tried to shift the blame on the central government. She said about 3 days back, the central government has not given sufficient men and material to fight these anti-social elements. If that is true, the Home Minister must accept and the Prime Minister must accept. If that is not true, they must take steps on the advice given by the Governor for further action on Bihar government.
So you're basically saying to me that at the moment, either the Home Minister and Prime Minister are acting wrongly or they're not acting at all.
Please, it is not me. It is the Chief Minister of a state. When she came here, after she met the Home Minister and the Prime Minister, she made a public comment through press that the forces has not been given by the central government. It is not my mistake, it is the mistake of the central government. She tried to shift the blame. If that is true, then these two people must be responsible. Otherwise, the central government must act on the advice of the government.
You're chairman of the United Front Steering Committee. Have you spoken to the Prime Minister and the Home Minister about this?
This is only about 3 days back what has happened.
Will you take it up with them?
No, this issue is going to come in the next steering committee. There is no question.
You will raise it?
No, this is a matter which is going to be taken by the steering committee. It is not the question of individual taking the interest. It is the question of the government's image. It is the question whether the Chief Minister, what she has said, is based on any truth or not. It is a matter to be clarified by the Home Minister and by the Prime Minister.
My last question for this part. If you discover that the government has handled the matter wrongly and poorly, will you insist upon...
It is not the question of government handling the matter wrongly or rightly. No need of any discovery. From the day one, when the charge sheet was filed against Lalu Prasad Yadav, what Sitaram Kesri and his party stand is openly demonstrated. Openly demonstrated throughout the world. And not only that, even in Ashok Jain issue, even in Sitaram Kesri's what is called bank account issue, and the Congress fund issue, all these things are a matter which is known by the public. I do not want to enter into this dialogue. It's
But you're
unnecessary.
clearly...
And my Prime Minister, even though he sincerely wants to take action, unfortunately, the remote control is the Congress High President, Mr. Sitaram Kesri, does not want that the effective action to put down all these things as, but unfortunately...
But Mr. Devegowda, you're clearly suggesting that your Prime Minister is being influenced, if not remote controlled, by Congress.
It is not the question of influence. It is a question of hard reality. About just 10 minutes back, my friend, you said you are unable to maintain cordial relationship with Sitaram Kesri. That's why your government is gone. You yourself have said that. So in a situation like this, my Prime Minister, not with the power hungry, he wants to maintain a cordial relationship to push some of the reforms as to the best of his ability.
But he's not succeeding.
But what to do? The person who wants to create all this lull is Mr. Sitaram Kesri, must ask him.
Okay,
The country will repay for all the damage that has taken place because of the Congress, the unethical decision, immoral decision. The country will answer to this question in an appropriate time.
Mr. Devegowda, I want to continue this conversation, but first we have to take a brief commercial break. Don't go away. We'll be back in just a couple of moments. Welcome back to part 2 of our interview with H.D. Devegowda. We're now into an election campaign. What role will you play in this campaign?
My role is as a steering committee chairman to coordinate with all the partners of 13 political parties of the United Front, strengthen the United Front, fight the battle against the two main enemies.
So you are
There's
going to
BJP.
coordinate the campaign.
I will only work as a coordinator.
The coordinator of the campaign. After the elections, if the United Front wins, will you be a candidate for Prime Minister?
It is for the United Front to take the decision, and the representatives who are going to be elected by the people of this nation are the responsible people, and they are going to decide about the leader. It is not for me.
But when the United Front Parliamentary Committee meets, if it meets to decide, will you be a candidate for Prime Minister?
No, I do not want to ask for such hypothetical questions. That is an issue which is going to be decided by the...
Let me change the question. Do you want to be Prime Minister again?
No, there is no question of my the aspiration and no aspiration. It is the question of the decision of the parliamentary party.
Let me ask you one other question. You know the situation the country faces today. Secondly, you know what is required to be Prime Minister of India. So tell us, what are the qualities the future Prime Minister should have in terms of personnel?
The quality of a Prime Minister, which requires, according to me, is a person who should know the problem of the nation.
Does he need to be a tough person?
Both the internal problem as well as the external problem.
Does he need to be a tough person?
Just 1 second. The problem of the nation, not only the economic problems, not only the poverty problem, not only the hunger, the people who are suffering without proper food, not only the housing problem, there are so many problems.
I understand, sir.
Please, this requires the political will, the oneness, the collective leadership. One man cannot, and the corruption. Corruption is one of the major curse for Indian politics.
You mentioned a moment ago political will. Are you saying that the man who becomes Prime Minister needs to be a tough man?
Sure, it requires some tough decisions. I don't dispute that.
Tell me something else. Do you need someone as Prime Minister who has the courage to take tough decisions?
That is the need of the hour.
Aren't you in many ways describing yourself?
No, there are so many people, as I told you earlier. It does not confine to me. Toughness, handling the problem with experience, with all these things does not only confine to A or B.
Okay,
there are several leaders.
Do you think that if you were to become Prime Minister again, you will have learnt lessons from the first time round and you will be a better person?
There is no need to learn lessons from the manipulative politics of Delhi. There is no need to learn any lesson from the manipulative or conspiracy, which is going to be one of the main art of Delhi politics, either media or politicians, how the conspirators, the manipulators, the looters of this country's wealth, and what the role they can play, I have understood, and the people will teach a lesson to such persons.
You don't like Delhi, do you?
No, it's not a question of Delhi. Delhi is a good place, but
it's the politicians.
Some of these handsome people who try to play Indian politics to suit their own convenience, to destroy the very image of the nation, they have already listed those people.
Do they exist in all parties, or are they only in some party?
I'm not going to say X party or the Y party. Did I say that? The manipulators, the conspirators, including your own media.
Should you become Prime Minister again, will you put down these people?
The responsibility of the United Front is to choose its Prime Minister. It is not an individual desire. That is important. It is the responsibility of the United Front after the election democratically to choose their leader.
But will you put these people down if you become Prime Minister again? Will you clear and clean Delhi of these manipulators?
My main task is to fight against these manipulators, fight against the countries. See, those people who have brought down the image of the country by the manipulative politics, to fight against such people, I am going around the country with the cooperation of all my United Front partners. I am going to take this battle to the people.
Mr. Devegowda, for that very strong declaration of your conviction, thank you very much indeed. That's it for this week. In Focus will be back next week with another interviewee. But for today, from the residence of H.D. Devegowda in New Delhi, goodbye.